keep it real with ya.
And so he asked me about what could the government do to support the asexual community. And I was like, the government? Which government? Our government? The one over here talking about aliens because they don't want to acknowledge the fact that we have a huge housing crisis and a homelessness problem. And the cost of living is ridiculous. And wages ain't where they supposed to be. That government? The government who regularly tries to starve out unions because they don't want to pay people more and give them a decent living situation or decent working conditions? That government. The government who regularly throws people in jail on the sly for disagreeing with them. The government that still has people in prisons and torturing them. You think I have faith in that government to create a community for asexual people? That don't really. I think we pretty low on the priority list for the government. Now, I mean, and I'm talking specifically in the U.S. context. I know Yasmin has been fighting to get asexuals included in the definition of LGBT so that they could be protected from things like hate crimes and stuff like that. And that is very important, and that is something to fight for. But in the case of the U.S., I just don't know if I can trust the government to try and create like safe spaces for asexual people when they ain't created it really for many other groups. I mean, I guess, if you're gay and stuff, they might have come around in some areas, but I just don't really trust them to create something. And who's going to advocate for that? Like, who's going to be the person to work with the government to say this is what the asexual community needs? We don't have a central leader. We don't have a central source of truth when it comes to education in the community. I think we got to figure those things out before we start trying to go get the government to do stuff for us. That just sounds kind of difficult. That sounds like a weird fight to have. And I said this in the Matt Walsh videos where those universities were doing these studies and it was all based on self-reporting, and it was not at all based on any type of actual definition for asexuality. Like, there was no control there. It was all variable. A study that's all variable, no control, is not even a valid study. But they just like asked a bunch of people. And so there was a bunch of people who were like, yeah, I call myself asexual, but I'm also lesbian, or I'm also straight. And I'm not going to tell you the differences between those or why I feel like I should have both those labels, and then be like, yeah, and a lot of asexual people experience sexual attraction as well. And that's not something that you want to say in a study that would get quoted by people. Because again, you're muddying the waters and you're spreading misinformation, which causes more harm to the community. I don't care how many people feel like, they want to come up with an extra label, or they want to change the definition of asexuality because they feel guilty that they're having sex with their partner, but they also want to still say they're asexual, which you can be asexual and have sex with your partner. But because you feel weird about that, and holding those two things feels contradictory to you, you now want to change the definition of asexuality to make it fit your feelings. Versus if we stuck with the definition of it as not experiencing sexual attraction, you could still be someone who doesn't experience sexual attraction and chooses to have sex with your partner. Those things wouldn't contradict each other. But because you feel they contradict, you have to stretch the definition to involve and include more people and more types of people and more experiences so that you don't feel so weird about calling yourself asexual. And you can do that because we don't have a single source of truth. We don't have a single representative. We don't have any type of pure education to help people who are confused. And when people are confused, I keep seeing messages where people are like, I'm confused, help me out. And they ask these questions. And then the people in the comments are like, well, you could just call yourself asexual if you want to. And they don't actually answer the question, and they don't help the confused person gain any clarity on asexuality. They just say, well, if you want to call yourself ace, you can call yourself ace. If you feel ace, then you are ace. What does it mean to feel ace? You have not helped them out in any way possible. And stuff like that is the biggest barrier to us creating community. And then you add on the piece of the POC. Something else that he brought up as I was laying out all these things was when I spoke about this image of asexuality and how it is so dominated by white people. And he talked about, he connected it kind of like to colonialism in the sense of white people feel like they are the default of everything and that everything should fit their idea of what they are. And I've been seeing that more and more. And as I've worked, like my new company is very like international, so I'm working with a lot of people. But I see that more and more where white people want to be the standard to which everyone else is held. And then that fuels their hatred for anyone who is deviating from that. Whether you deviate by being a person of color, you deviate by, being from a certain culture. Because I talk about like how there needs to be more resource, there needs to be more acceptance of people from different cultures than just the Western culture when it comes to asexuality. Because there's been people who are in cultures where they get in arranged marriages and they want to talk about their struggles being an asexual person in an arranged marriage, and don't nobody want to hear them because they all want to argue down the fact that they need to run away from their country and go to America or something where they don't have to be in an arranged marriage and they can be free to be asexual and all of that stuff. And I be looking at them like, what the fuck are y'all talking about? You can't just leave your country. Like, it's not easy like that. Y'all realize even your ancestors died trying to come over here. Like, some of them did not make it. And it's just like stuff like that. And it's like they want to be the default. They cannot accept that there's any other way to be asexual. And that's why they hate Yasmin. That's why they shoot down people of color whenever they want to talk about any issue that affects them. And that's why the loudest voices in the communities are white women. Whether they are trying to speak for white women or they're trying to speak for people of color, they not letting people of color speak. They not letting people of different cultures and religions speak. They want everybody to be, maybe Christian, maybe atheist, but they want you to fit the idea of a white woman when it comes to asexuality. That's why they're the most popular social media creators. That's why they're the ones who like go on these interviews with the news and all of that stuff. Sadie, stop trying to sneak food. That's why they are so aggressive towards, people who are sexy. Some people just look good. I mean, I know a lot of us look like potatoes, but some asexual people are cute. They do look good. Some asexual people aren't nerds. Some asexual people aren't into anime or Harry Potter or any of those other fandoms. You know what I mean? You don't all have to be the same, but there is a pressure and there is a silencing and an ignoring of people who are not the same. And so I thought it was really interesting that he connected those dots. And so when he spoke about like communities that were specifically for people of color who are asexual, I said there are like many communities, but they don't get as much as engagement. They don't get as much engagement. They don't get as much attention as the broader communities, because the communities that are flush with white people, those are the larger communities, which means you have a higher chance of meeting people who share common interests because you're in a community that has 500,000 people in it versus, a community for asexual people of color that has 30 people in it. You're going to run through those 30 people pretty easily. And so people will naturally gravitate towards what's more popular. And then even when you look at SEO in different, in the algorithms of different social media sites, even YouTube, is going to push you what they think is most popular, which is going to start with white people. They're going to push you white people. Most of my YouTube experience is white people, and I try to deviate from it. But then oftentimes the people who I do find, they're not consistent. They don't continue making videos. So they'll make a video, it'll do really well, and then they won't make another video for like 4 months. And so a lot of the biggest creators are white people. And it's really, really hard for people of color to claw their way to the top. They still have to claw their way to the top, even though you feel like the internet is like an equal opportunity place. Algorithms are still going to push you. Sadie, stop sneaking food. I hear you in there. Even though you feel like the internet is like this equal opportunity place, algorithms will still push you white people, and they will still push down black people unless you specifically follow them. And sometimes even when you do follow them, People have complained about this on TikTok. People have complained about this on YouTube. It is harder for creators of color. So there's a lot of different barriers to getting access to that education and creating that community that he was trying to understand how to create in this interview that we were doing. And what's another thing that he asked me about? I feel like I've hit all the main points. I think for him, the biggest thing was the intersectionality of the community and wanting to know what we could do to create that community. And then the other thing that he asked me about was, things that I felt that was good, like positives of asexuality, which I've said this before, but I love the fact that I am immune to the sexy. I love it. I feel like it makes me think more clearly, and it makes situations where other people would be like drooling and like turned on. Me being in those situations is hilarious. Like me seeing something that to everybody else is super, super sexy and they can't help themselves. And I'm just looking like past it, like I don't even know what they talking about. It's hilarious to me most of the time. There are some times when I'm just like alienated, but there are times when it's hilarious to me. I think I've told this before, but there was a time when I was looking for a new car and I was out with my mom, and my mom looks young. She looks like people have thought that she was my girlfriend when I was in high school. Like I look older and my mom looks younger to where we look like we could be in a relationship together. And so there was a time when we were looking for a car, and I was very like frustrated. One, because I was with my mom, so I'm already on 10. Because that just irritates me. But I was very frustrated because we had very, very specific things that we were trying to get out of a car. Very specific in the price, very specific in the type of car. And I was very specific in the fact I wanted that motherfucker to run right. And we went to this car lot because we were going to multiple car lots. And we went to this car lot and they sent out this young black man. And I think that he would be sexy to other young black women. Like, he had the tight shirt that showed his muscles and the tight pants that revealed a lot. And when he came out and he's walking over with this smile, white teeth, everything, my immediate thought was, bro, your clothes too tight. Why your clothes so tight? It's hot as fuck. You know me, I like to wear it. I was like, why is his clothes so tight? And I noticed that he was like convening with other car salesmen, and they decided to send him to us. Like I saw that happen before he started walking over to us. So I was like, okay, there's a reason they sent this guy. 1, 2, why your clothes so tight? And so by the time he got to me, I was already annoyed. I said, do you have any cars that are under this price? And he was like, no, but we have. And I was like, no. Mom, let's go. There's nothing else that we need to talk about. You're not about to convince me to do a damn thing. You're not about to convince me that financing, nothing. I already know exactly how much I want to finance. I know exactly how much I want to put down. I know exactly the type of cars I want to look at. If you ain't got it, it's time to go. And my mom, she just kind of went along with it. She was like, because she was all like nice little man. I was like, Mom, let's go. What you smiling at his face for? We got other car lots to hit. But it's like when I describe him to other people and I'm like hanging out with my black women friends and they look at these guys and they're like drooling. They just lose their minds over these type of men. And all I could see was he was about to try to make me spend more money than I wanted to spend. And I wasn't about that. And so there are times where you could feel weird standing next to somebody who's like, or if you're in a group of people and they all think that this person is sexy and they're all just gushing about it. And to me, it's kind of gross sometimes. They'll be talking about their bodily fluids. And I was like, well, I don't need to hear all that. But that part can be alienating. But in other times, it can be funny because I got the car I wanted for less than what I planned to pay for it because I was immune to the sexy. I did not care. You could not convince me to buy a damn thing because you was cute. And I don't care. Like my family, they were like, maybe she just don't like black men. Maybe she like Asian men. I didn't care what he looked like. I've met Asian men, I've met good looking Asian men. I don't care what you look like. You're not about to play with my money. I know that, And I think that is something that I find funny and interesting about being asexual. Like, and I also too, like, you guys know I love movies, even though I don't get to talk about them. I love movies. And I can evaluate a movie for how good it is and not how sexy the people in the movie are. I don't care if it's Ryan Gosling. I don't care if it's, I can't even remember the other guys, but I don't care if it's the sexiest celebrity you possibly do. Is it a good plot? Was it written right? Did the director do a good job? Was the cinematography on point? You know what I mean? Did the actors do a good job with what they were given? You know, that's what I think about. Meanwhile, other people be like, but it's Ryan Gosling. I said, I don't give a fuck. He better be funny, or he better be, you know, whatever his character is supposed to be. That's all I care about. Is it a good movie? I don't care who looks like what. I've seen movies with some of the most average looking people ever and been like, damn, that was a good ass movie. It's a shame that it won't make it to theaters because it's not full of like sexy celebrities. But stuff like that, I think, is, you know, a good thing about being asexual. Because, like, and again, not for those people who choose to be asexual, but for those of us who've been like this, there can be times when we feel like, oh man, something's wrong with me because I'm not seeing like other people. But there's positives to not seeing things the way other people see things. He also asked me about autism and asexuality. Look, I have not done the research. There is a large number of neurodivergent people in the asexual community, but I also think there's a large number of neurodivergent people in general, like a large number of undiagnosed neurodivergent people, people who don't even know that they're neurodivergent. So I can't say for sure if, you know, there's a correlation between those things, but I do believe that being neurodivergent, because your brain works differently, because you see the world differently from other people, that is going to influence whether or not you want to pull away from these systems. You know, like you're going to look at things and be like, this doesn't make any sense. And when it comes to things like gender constructs and stuff like that, you're going to look at it and be like, this doesn't make any sense. Why can't I just be however I want to be? And that's why I feel like we see a lot of non-binary people in these communities as well, because a lot of people look at some of these social constructs and they just choose not to participate, and that's totally fine. But I can't say like I'm the, you know, the autism expert in any of this. I just found out I was autistic like a few months ago, so I told him, I was like, look, this is kind of how I feel, but don't quote me on these things, because I don't know the science behind how a neurodivergent brain overlaps with a asexual brain. We don't have research on that. And then the last thing he was like, you know, what is something that you would want to share with other people who are asexual, people of color? And my biggest thing that I wanted to say was just that we out here. Like, we are out here. We are some of us are making videos, some of us are making TikToks, some of us are posting on Twitter, posting on Facebook, posting on Instagram. We exist, we're out here. It's just that we get drowned out so much by like these white voices that people may think that asexuality is synonymous with white people and that people of color can't be ace. But there are a good number of asexual people of color. It's just a matter of, and some of us are hiding, but a lot of us are not hiding. You just don't see us. Like, it's hard to be like a drop in the bucket. You know what I mean? Because you want people to know that it's possible, and that, and just like with this channel, I want my experiences to be known. I want people to know how I live as a asexual person of color, how I live as a atheist asexual, how being a Black woman in the South impacts my asexuality, how autism impacts my asexuality, however that is, you know, how trauma and mental health impacts these things. Because I think that's something that I've learned from the people that I'm friends with who are asexual, and the people of color in particular, is that one, we don't really feel welcome in those larger communities online. But two, we acknowledge that we are more than just asexual. Like, we acknowledge that we have more to our identity, our likes, our dislikes, you know, our hobbies, things we like to do, the type of people we like to interact with. There's so many more facets to our identity than asexuality. And I think that that's something that really like sets us apart and also contributes to the alienation, because there are a lot of these like creators who they are white, so they don't even consider their whiteness to be impacting anything, and their whole identity is that they're asexual. That's their whole identity. And while that works well for like YouTube algorithms, because every video you post will be asexual, therefore every person who wants to watch that content will go to you, versus someone like me who every video is not asexuality. People of color realize that we are not just asexual, and we don't have the privilege of being just one identity the way white people do. We have to be, we are always going to be known in this society as it is now, because it's a white supremacist society. We are always going to be known as asexual person of color, whereas white people get to be known as asexual. We are always going to be known as asexual black woman, or black asexual person, or Asian asexual person. We are always going to be an add-on to the label asexual, because we do not benefit from the privilege of being seen as the default. And so because of that, it may be harder for us to be identified, because I don't go around telling everybody I'm asexual. I don't go around wearing the colors all the time. I don't go around with a pin on my shirt every single day to make sure everybody who sees me, who knows what asexuality is, knows that I'm also asexual. Like, I don't do all of that. Not everything on my social media timeline is about asexuality, because I recognize that I am a lot of things, and asexuality is just one part of that. And I think that that's a good thing. And I think hearing from people who are more than just asexual is important, because he asked me too, in an ideal world, like, how would, asexuals be treated, or how would you, express yourself as an asexual and stuff. It's like, first of all, I'm expressing myself now. Like, there's nothing stopping me at this point in my life where I am, how I live, and the life that I built for myself. There's nothing stopping me from expressing myself. But in terms of expressing myself as an asexual person, in an ideal world for me, I wouldn't have to say it. I wouldn't have to come out. Like, the ideal coming out situation for me is that I don't have to come out. I can just be who I am, and no one questions it. And I don't have to have that weight of, oh my God, I have to tell my parents. Oh my God, I have to tell my partner. Oh my God, what are my friends going to think? I wouldn't have that weight, because everybody would accept the fact that people are different. I wouldn't have to explain if I was to ever get in a relationship. Like, for one, if I never get in a relationship, I don't have to tell anyone why. But for two, if I was to get in a relationship, I wouldn't have to explain to people, yeah, I'm in a relationship, but trust me, I'm also asexual. I wouldn't have to tell my partner, hey, I'm asexual. Here are my feelings about sex. And I wouldn't have to say any of that. I could have a private conversation with my partner about the limits and the boundaries of our relationship, but nobody else would have to know about that. And I wouldn't have to justify anything to anybody, because everybody would understand that people are just different. And some people do this, and some people do that, and some people do something that you never even heard of before. And that would just be okay. And it wouldn't need to be questioned. The reason that people have pride months and pride flags and pride marches is because we live in a society that makes us feel like we should be ashamed for existing. And the people who complain about that are the same people who create that environment. But if we lived in an environment where, someone at school is gay, but you never know until one day they kiss a person of the same gender in front of everybody, and you're like, oh, guess they got a boyfriend now. Guess they got a girlfriend now. And you just move on with your life. And maybe their relationship works out, maybe it don't. Maybe they get married. Maybe they adopt kids. Maybe they have a dog. And that's just them living their life. And it's totally fine, and no one questions it. Because people are just different. There's no normal. Normal's not a thing. It's not a thing that actually exists. You know what I mean? And that's an ideal world. But I recognize we don't live in that world. And because we don't live in that world, there is work that has to be done. There's people who have to come out. There's, uncomfortable conversations where we have to explain ourselves over and over and over again. And I even told them about this argument that I talked about on here, where somebody outed me in front of a bunch of people as being asexual because I had mentioned, changing my name at some point, and them telling me that this LGBT organization helps people do that. And then they were like, well, you can get it because you're asexual, right? And then everybody was like, what is this? And then it became a whole discussion. And some people were receptive. And some people, when I explained what that was or what that was for me, argued with me and didn't believe me because they knew someone who said that they were asexual. I don't know if they were or not. I don't know them, but said they were asexual, and they behaved in a very, very different way than I did. And they had a very, very different understanding of asexuality than I did. Therefore, me, Minu, could not be asexual. And, that was a very uncomfortable conversation to have. And did I go and be like, well, that means they're not actually asexual and they're lying? No, I didn't say that. Because I don't know that person. But I know me, and I know that I'm asexual, and I know what asexuality means to me and what the definition of it means to me. And that's what I go off of. But that's the type of stuff that we have to deal with when we don't have a solid community. We don't have good education. We don't have agreement on labels and definitions within the community. We don't allow dissent. We don't allow people with different opinions to speak up. We don't allow respectful discussions and debates. We don't allow any of that. And because we don't allow any of that, the community is always going to have issues internally and externally, and people aren't going to take us seriously. So before we get anything straight, we need to nail down our definitions, and we need to get proper education for people. If we don't want to do that, then it's not going anywhere. And I also told him too, every person I know personally is not involved in the asexual communities, because they don't feel welcome in those communities anymore. And they are not just people of color. All the people of color I know who are ace don't feel welcome in these communities. But even the not people of color don't feel welcome in these communities because of how people behave. And so that's our biggest issue, I told him I wish I could have gave you. Man, what? Why are y'all yelling? For no reason. Sadie, I'm gonna need you to calm down so I can finish my video, okay? That's a 2-part video now. I don't know what the hell Morticia keeps saying in this apartment. I swear this girl is haunted because Sadie don't see what she looking at, but Morticia is spooked. So I don't know what's going on. Oh my God. They were staring each other down from across the room, shaking their butts. It was so cute. You'll never see it. But, yeah, those are the biggest issues. I told him, I'm sorry I can't give you, like, a solid answer. Like, I'm sorry I can't be like, man, if this one thing just happened, we'd be straight. No. The asexual community has a lot of work to do in a lot of different areas before we are even in a position to want to demand spaces or recognition from larger groups or the government even. We have a lot of work to do. Anyway, that's all I want to share with y'all that I shared with him. I did share him my YouTube channel. As usual, if you search Minu, you will not find me. You will have to search Minu Asexual, and it will still give you that one video from a year ago. I did disclose that to him so that he knew, like, this is, I talk about this stuff. If you are curious to, dive more into the community, I do have a channel. But yeah, I just, it's not like it's a life-changing thing, but glad to share my experience and help spread some awareness about asexuality. But anyway, guys, I've been talking way too long. This is part 2, apparently. I'm gonna let y'all go and enjoy your Sunday. Like I always say, take care of yourself because you deserve it. Drink your water, eat your food, take your naps. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. Donate on Coffee if you feel like it. It's not a requirement, but I'd appreciate it because I don't get paid from these instantly demonetized videos for no reason. I guess another thing you can talk about algorithms. I be getting demonetized for nothing. I don't even curse like that. But yeah, so I don't make no money from that. Join the Discord. so you can connect with people, share your experiences, no matter how mundane it is. Just connect with people who are like you. Follow me on Instagram because it's not bad over there. I post some cool pictures of gluten-free food and my cats being ridiculous. But yeah, also, you know, if you have any thoughts about anything that I've said or something that you really wish that you could tell people about asexuality, you know, people outside the community or people inside the community, share that in the comments. You know, I love talking to you guys. Like I always say, like talking to you can sometimes change my opinion on something and change how I feel. And I have changed my opinion on stuff since I've started this channel. And I own that, you know. But I don't learn unless I talk to other people. That's why I'm always open to it. All right. End of the video. Love you guys. Bye.